Jane, would you like to give a little introduction to yourself?
Yeah, hello Kieran, nice to see you again. I'm Jane, I'm the founder and CEO of Purple Cubed and also our sister company WellBee, which is a wellbeing app which is very pertinent at the moment, helps you to assess your own well-being and also have some recommendations as a result. Purple Cubed are essentially a tech consultancy company. We work around employee engagement, talent management, making sure that places are a great place to work. And we work quite a lot with leaders in a kind of group coaching way. I also write books, etc., and comment and do loads of other things, but that's pretty much me.
I love that. That was a snapshot of time. Nice. If you asked me to do that, I'd be there for 25 minutes. That's my problem. So today we're going to talk about the idea of finding the right job for you, which is a lot of people right now who are trying to go through that process and who are trying to kind of avoid kind of that panic buy. They want to find the right place and the right position. So our starting point of this, I think we're going to think a little bit about CVs and resumes. So what skills should I be looking to list on my CV?
Okay, so my take on this is, instead of talking about the things you've done and the skills you've got in isolation, translate them into achievements. Because if I'm an employer and you wrote that you had increased sales by X% or increased footfall or decreased overhead with numbers, you can build the picture, paint the picture of your skills and your attributes, if you like, through achievements. So I think instead of having skills and career to date, have achievements and list those and think really hard about how you can make that look very strong. Now, if you're in a job where you don't necessarily directly influence numbers and so on and so forth, there are still things you can think about. Whereas, if you were a very successful waiter and, you had so many good comments about your skills, you could say, I carried out my job and, consistently great customer service scores or whatever it is. Just find some stuff from somewhere that shows that if you came to work for me in my business, I would get loads of benefits out of employing you. So say something different that brings that to life. Just think about painting the picture. Think about being in the employer's shoes and, however they do it, even if they do it electronically, there will be at some point when they look and think, wow, that person looks as if they've got energy and enthusiasm and could really add something here. So I think that's the first bit.
So not reading off a job description really is a good starting point.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many people use CVs now, because a lot of the stuff is online, isn't it? And you are filling into a prescribed form. And the only experience I have of doing this is my daughter's applying for jobs at the moment as well. And one day I sat down to help her. And actually, she's 24 and she's really bright, but she didn't know how to sell herself on an electronic form because she was just putting the facts. And I said, well, maybe you could turn that fact into a benefit. So, when you're going to, I don't know if you've ever been on a sales course, but you go on a sales course and they go, the fact is, here is a bedroom. The benefit is this is the most comfortable bedroom you've ever been in and it's really quiet. And so, you need to turn the fact into a benefit somehow so that you leap off that page or that screen. And it's not easy to do, but if you think about it, you can do it and it becomes easier as you go because you become more useful. So I don't have to help her anymore because I've shown her once, but it is about sell yourself and don't be shy. And if you're feeling a bit down and not very confident, this is the time to push that away and to go, you almost have to say to yourself 10 times, I'm brilliant, I'm brilliant, I'm brilliant. And I want the world to know how brilliant I am. Even if you don't feel like that inside, get it on the page. Really important.
I think it's a really good point. The CV is that's for a lot of people, that's the first thing that people are going to be able the first impression that you're going to make on them. So if you don't take that opportunity to sell those benefits of having you in that business, then maybe the next 5 people do. So you've got to really take that time. So obviously kind of to do that effectively, we've got to look at some real preparation. So I know that you like a list. You love to build a list. It's already I've got that as a clear indicator of you, and but that's a really useful thing at this point, isn't it? So sitting down, and putting that preparation into action before you think about sending that CV anywhere.
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. I'll give you a link later for a free CV builder that sort of takes you through. That just helps. It's pretty simple, but it helps to structure it, make sure it's only 2 pages long, and etc., some of those things. But yeah, I think once you've done one CV, I think it's easier to tailor that a bit more to the job. I mean, you know, you shouldn't have to do too much with it, because maybe you can, if you are sending a CV with an email, you can tailor your email rather than the CV. But I think if you are, you know, applying for lots of things online, read what it's asking for and tailor your response to the organisation that you're going into. Because if you're going to go and work for Marriott, the culture is probably very different from working with Soho House, for instance. So, you know, try and match that. And it comes back to values, actually. I know we've spoken before about values on a previous video, but, you know, if you know your own values and you know the values of the company, that can come through in your words. You know, you don't write "my values are," but you use those words that will resonate.
Well, that's the thing. And I think when you think about what skills should be listed, well, actually kind of having that shared values, that shared set of values, that shared kind of vision is a real kind of, it's an attribute. So skills are kind of, we take them as being very, very literally, I think sometimes. And we think, right, I can do X, Y, and Z. But actually there's a bit more flexibility to it as well, isn't there? Where I think we've touched on previously on the kind of the attitudinal stuff, and that kind of ties into that values.
I think so. I mean, people want both, but, you know, most good employers now will be looking for attitude and be prepared to train the skill. Because, you know, unless you're in a very technical, you know, if you're an accountant, for instance, you know, if you're doing hotel accounts, you probably need to be a qualified accountant, you know, but there are only so many of those jobs where you have to be very, very specific in the skills stuff. But the attitudinal stuff, you can't train that. So if you are a very positive, smiling, enthusiastic person who is always energetic, etc., then make that come across in what you're saying, because you've only got one chance here. You know, somebody might be reading. I was on a call with somebody the other morning, and she said, "Oh, I've got to go and read my next 100 CVs now." And I thought, poor girl, she'd be looking for the one that stands out for the right reasons, by the way. But, you know, just the thing that's short and to the point and punchy and sings off the page, and make it live. Sell yourself.
Yeah, well, that's the key, isn't it? And I think that kind of that sales course idea you're talking about, sell the benefits. It always comes down to the benefits. You know, fundamentally, we all want to know how you're going to make my life a little bit better, maybe even a little bit easier, certainly in the long term.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's your key. And I think when people are sitting around looking at 100 CVs, to be able to pop on that page, to be able to really kind of stand out of that list, you've got to find a way of really expressing your personality across there.
I think so. And I would, not everybody agrees with me on this, but I'm going to stand by my points. You know, those kind of, I call it bullshit paragraph, that's a technical term, but you know, the bit at the beginning that goes, "I am passionate about this and I'm always punctual." And you know, they all say the same thing. And I was having this conversation actually with Jo Simovic at Umbrella, and she was going, "Oh, I was just to put that on mine." But when I think about it, yeah, mine used to say that, because they all say the same thing. And it's just like, your heart sinks because you think, I've got to read that pretty much similar paragraph 100 times now. So I just wouldn't even bother with that. I'd just get straight into the facts and then do a really amazing accompanying email that's very tailored. So yeah, there's a few things that people put on the CVs that are a bit of a no-no as far as I'm concerned, and that's one of them.
So, well, I mean, that's not a bad thing, is it? Because that tailoring of the CV is absolutely key. I mean, people think that they've got to put that bullshit paragraph at the front because, well, you know what? That's what people do. I've got to kind of hit that mark. But actually, if you don't put it, then again, you do become one of those that does stand out for the right reasons. Because, well, already, well, you're respecting my time.
I mean, maybe if you're a brilliant wordsmith and you can do something that's absolutely appropriate, but it's very hard to do. So yeah, keep it for the accompanying thing and just make your CV factual, I would say.
I like that.
Yeah.
So we've already started to touch on the things that maybe we shouldn't be included on that CV. So we'll take that paragraph out at the beginning. Everyone who's listening right now is going to go into the edit feature of their of Word, I hope, to be honest with you, because having been in that situation of looking through lots of CVs, you do kind of think, tell me something interesting.
Opinion. You know, some employers say they like reading them, but I don't know why, because I certainly wouldn't, and I know many others that don't, because it's a waste of your time.
What else should we avoid putting into our CVs?
Don't put your photo on it, and if anybody asks you for a photo, they shouldn't be asking you for a photo. So no. If you did put a photo in and don't put one, certainly don't put one with your cat or on the beach or anything. I mean, I've seen all this and it's like, wow, what's that about? And I think it's good to have some things that are non-work related, but make sure that whatever's in there relates some way to the impression you want to give. So for instance, if you were captain of the football team at work, at school or something, and you haven't got a lot of things to put on your CV, I'd put that, because that shows some leadership and probably an organisation, and the fact that you've had to, you know, rally the troops and all of that. So if you've got things that are going to be a bit relevant, put it on, but don't list everything you've ever done. I think avoid listing lots of detail about very old jobs. So if you've had 10 jobs in your life, I would put detail about the last 2. And maybe just a line or 2 about some of the others, because, you know, if you had a part-time job in a pub when you were 16, I think that suffices. You don't need to say that you're collecting glasses, wiping tables and washing up, because we know that.
Yep.
So, you know, just keep it to things that people might find a bit more surprising than the we know. But certainly I don't bother telling people to put references on the end, because I think if I want to go and get references, I will go and, you know, ask the employer direct. I won't go straight to your uncle who happened to work somewhere that you worked for 2 days once. That sounds skeptical, I know, don't shoot me. But seriously, sometimes when you look into these things, you think, I don't want to talk to that person. I want to talk to, you know, the HR director from the place that you used to work in, and let's get their take on it. So I wouldn't bother with references in that sense. Let people follow them up if they want to, really. And I think also, you know, the reason that CVs are the way they are, most people's version of a CV is from 40 years ago, or certainly 20 years ago, pre-internet, or pre-internet as we know it. Because now if you want to know about someone, you just go and look on the LinkedIn, don't you really? I would.
Fundamentally.
Yeah, okay, there's an application process to go through, but you know, the application process in my company, we ask for a 1-page CV just to see what they've been doing, and also to see if they can write something down succinctly without, you know, all the boring stuff. And then we ask them for 10 bullet points about why they're the right person to work for us, and that's all we ask for.
Oh, I like that. And
if they don't follow those guidelines, we don't even consider them, because if they're not going to get the application bit right, they're certainly not going to do what we need them to do when they get here. And, you know, if you have 10 bullet points, it says you can write succinctly, it shows your personality. You know, there are those who say things like, I am always punctual. And there are those who leap off the page and say, the reason I want to work here is because I absolutely love what you do and I believe in it. And I think that I want to make it my life's mission. It's like, great, come on then, you know, do it. So there are different ways to do applications now. You don't have to do the way we've done it for the last years and years and years and years before, you know, we had better means of finding out about people.
Yeah,
so on that note, clean up your LinkedIn, you know, make your Facebook private and your Insta private if you don't want people, you know, seeing you dancing around in a bikini. There's nothing wrong with that, but people do look on these things, rightly or wrongly, but they do. So, you know, I think it's just, you know, keep what you need to private and share the good stuff on LinkedIn.
So, I mean, that's again, it's another interesting point, is most people will look on LinkedIn, obviously now, making sure that history on LinkedIn matches up with what's on the CV.
Yeah, that would help. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So making sure that matches up. Absolutely.
Yeah. And, you know, be honest on your CV, because it's all checkable. And if you've got a gap, say you've got a gap, but explain why you've got a gap. You know, it's fine. It's normal. People do that now. But, you know, don't kind of try and mess your dates up just to make it all match, because the worst thing you can do is put anything that's not true. Because, you know, everything, you know, the whole world's information is in the palm of your hand now. So don't even go there. Just make it truthful. And you've only got to do enough to get through the door. And then once you get through the door, then you can wow them with your, you know, your stories of achieving this, that, and the other. But don't.
We're thinking about making applications. We're thinking about looking for a job. I don't own a computer. What can I do? Okay.
First of all, I'd say, have you got a phone? Because most job applications now are probably online, and you should be able, I mean, they should be mobile first. Most good systems are mobile first now. So you should be able to do it on your phone. And if you can't and you don't have a computer, do you know anybody at all who would let you lose theirs. I mean, that you'll have to be kind of a bit creative about where you go. You'll have to go to an internet cafe or a place where, in the olden days, before everybody had computers, we all used to go and sit in an internet cafe and, do what we needed to do and go away again. So you just have to do that, really. I mean, it might not be fair, but that's the way. If you really, really don't have a computer and you really, really can't find access to that, then you'll have to write a good old-fashioned letter with a good old-fashioned CV in it and post it off. I mean, you don't know, that might do you a favour. I suppose people don't do that anymore.
That could be the thing that makes you stand out from the crowd.
Yeah, but don't sit there finding an excuse like, I don't have a computer, because I get that not everybody has that, but there is probably a way that you could get someone to help.
Absolutely. So get creative. Potentially recruiters would be able to help out with that as well, I guess.
Absolutely right, recruiters. And also there are lots of people very generously posting on LinkedIn at the moment. There's a kind of standard email that says, I don't know if I can help you or not, but if I can, please do contact me. And so many people are posting that. So go and find some of those people who are doing that and saying, actually, yeah, you could help me because I don't have a computer, and maybe you could help me with my application. There are generous, lovely people out there in hospitality who wanted to support everybody else. So go and reach out to them, and they'll help, I'm sure.
For sure. And I think we're in hospitality because we care. So if somebody needs our help, then undoubtedly there's going to be somebody out there who's willing to put their hand up and get you there.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think it does come down to just, do you use it as an excuse, or do you kind of find a way to get past that? And if it's an excuse, then that's going to hold you back in much bigger ways than not being able to get a job application in.
And I think if you're using it for an excuse because you're depressed and you're genuinely not very well and you're feeling very anxious, then go and talk to someone and go and get some help. And if you are out of work and you've got that, Career Scope have got a free version of our WellBee, so you could absolutely go on there and get some help with your well-being. So I don't want to sound flippant when I say use it as an excuse, but if you in your heart of hearts think maybe I am using it as an excuse, but it's because I don't feel great, then go and deal with the not feeling great, because you're not going to be in a good place to be applying for these jobs, even though you need the money, etc., etc. I know that, and it's an awful situation, but get well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think dealing with the symptom and understanding what is the cause of the problem is absolutely key. And you're right, there's a lot of tools out there that can help us to go and do that. We just have to look for them. Amazing. So finding the right job. We've talked about skills. We've talked about how we enhance our CV. We've talked about what we shouldn't be putting on our CVs. I mean, I don't know why people wouldn't want a picture of this on my CV. I'm not sure. This beard and this hat is just...
It instantly employ you, clearly. So,
Maybe as a hipster beard taster, I'm not sure. Maybe that I'd hit that particular mark. But there's a whole load of useful stuff in there again. Really useful conversation. Really enjoyed that. Thank you very much for your time, Jane. Absolute pleasure.
Pleasure. Thank you for asking me. Nice to see you.
Perfect.